Welcome to the first of what we hope will be many podcasts about customer success. We're envisioning this as a series of interviews with customer success leaders about how they approach customer success and implement best practices. This podcast is brought to you by Strike Deck and the Success League. Strike Deck is a customer success automation platform that enables CSMs to manage their customer relationships. The Strike Deck solution enables churn prevention and upsells and customer advocacy. They use machine learning and predictive analytics to bubble up insights and alerts about customer health, sentiment, and engagement. The Success League is a consulting firm focused on customer success, and we work with executives who are ready to build and develop a top-performing customer success team that drives retention and revenue for their organization. For more information about the Success League, you can visit our website at thesuccessleague.io. So my name is Kristen Hayer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Success League, and I'll be your host for today. I started my career in sales, and over the past 15 years, I've been a sales, marketing, and customer success executive. My focus has been on early and growth stage tech companies, and now I'm really excited to have a chance to help lots of different kinds of companies figure out how best to implement customer success. On a personal level, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area with my husband and my daughter and my dog, and I also serve on the board of Brisbane Dance and Theater Workshop, which is a local nonprofit that encourages children to participate in the performing arts. So that's what I do. Today I'd like to introduce Kim Oslab, who is the VP of Operations at WSB. Today we're going to talk about how to start up a customer success team. Kim, welcome. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about WSB?
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. So WSB is a real-time customer engagement platform for brands. Basically, it uses video and chat to increase interaction on your site, which ultimately leads to more conversions and possibly more time spent on your site. I have been in customer success over 7 years. I started at a small company. I tend to like startup companies, so I started at a small company.
Good.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
So we had a company, had a SaaS product, and had customers. And so I kind of formulated into that role to take care of customers, which I didn't know at the time was customer success. So I started up a team there, and now I'm at WSB, and I'm starting up a U.S. team, although WSB does have an international team over in Barcelona area. On a personal level, I run a lot. For example, I ran 35 miles over the weekend. I'm doing a big Disney race, which is really cool.
Do you do marathons?
I do.
Oh, very cool. How many marathons do you do a year?
I'm going to be doing my 4th.
Wow, yeah. That's amazing. Cool. Well, as I mentioned earlier, today we're going to be talking about how to start up a customer success team. And you wrote a really cool blog post recently for Strike Deck about how to do that. And I thought it would be interesting to kind of expand on that in our conversation today. So first, I just wanted to ask, why do you feel like that's such an important topic?
Yeah, so let me take back to like 6 years ago. I went to my first customer success conference. I'm going to say there was maybe like about 30 people there, and I'd say 95% of the people that attended said, I am in this customer success role, mostly VP roles, director roles, and I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. I know I'm supposed to handle the customers, but I don't really know what this is. Take us up to today. I've been to several conferences over the summer, and that really hasn't changed a whole lot. I mean, people know what customer success is, but they really don't know all the details of what the role involves or how to start up a team or what metrics to collect. So I think there's a lot of hunger. You'll see it on blogs. You'll see it at conferences for people to know how to set up a team correct for the SaaS market, or it can be any other market, as well as what processes they need to have in place.
Yeah, I've really noticed that it means something different for every company I talk to. Customer success means different things for different companies. So I really liked your article because I felt like it was a good overview that would fit for lots of different kinds of customer success organizations. So just to kind of clarify for the listeners, when you talk about starting up a team, are you talking about starting a customer success team from scratch, or are you talking about joining an existing team maybe as a new leader?
Yeah, I think both of them are relevant in the case because if you're starting up a new team, obviously you need to put processes in place. You need to do all your due diligence within the company, which is some of the things I'm going to go over today. But as well, when you're joining an existing team, which I am now, so I've come from starting up a team to an existing team. At some points you are starting over from scratch because you see things that are within the company or the processes, and maybe that's something you have to change or improve. So you're always looking at it from a beginning stage and always trying to pull apart pieces that you need to put in place to make the improvements or start that whole process within.
Okay, so it's for a little bit of both then.
Yeah,
really.
a little bit
okay.
of both.
Tell me a little bit about your overall approach to starting a team. So if you're thinking about maybe your first 3 months or your first 6 months and you're a new leader or you're starting up a new team, what's your approach?
So it's going to be pretty equal, pretty similar to working with an existing team. But one of the first things you're going to want to do is learn that product. You're going to want to get to know the core teams, so that could be sales, project management, support, even your customers. And you'll also want to start that process of creating that internal playbook. In tandem, you're going to want to look for those talented CSMs, and preferably CSMs that have experience or at least come from a company that works with the type of product that you're using within that company. So say it's a marketing product, it'd be great to have CSMs that have familiarity in that space.
Okay, so you mentioned kind of learning new products. What's your approach for learning new products? How do you like to tackle that?
Yeah, I personally like to throw myself in the fire. So I like to sit with support. Support is where a lot of issues come up, where customers are calling in, or even sitting with them in their logs and looking at their logs, whether it be they use Zendesk, and kind of see what the patterns are within there. A lot of times in support as well, you're also collecting product feedback from the customers, what they want. So I like to sit in there and learn that. Also sitting with clients, you could do it via screen share or sit with them in person. I like to meet with them in person if I can and watch them use the product. See what they're doing with the product, because sometimes part of what the product is different than how the clients are using it. So that's part of learning the product as well. And then you can, of course, use your product manuals and sit into the onboarding trainings as well.
Okay, cool. And then one of the things I know you mentioned at the beginning that you need to do in the first 30 days is really get to know your team. How do you like to do that?
Yeah, I like to take them out of the environment. So typically
I do too.
You do?
Yeah, it works really well, I think.
They're a little bit more personal that way, So I tend to take them actually after work. I used to take them at lunch, and then you could see that they kind of felt like they were still working because it was during the workday. So a lot of times I would, just have them leave a little bit early with me. We would go off-site. It was outside of work. They were going home right after. And then they opened up a bit more, and they would tell me what was going on, what they'd like to see improved, et cetera. And that's a really great way for me.
Cool. Yeah, I'm a fan of the coffee meeting myself. That one tends to work really well for me. But I try to get them at the beginning of the day and get them out for coffee. So I think we tend to target the ends of the day. I do think that works better because it's before they kind of get into their normal flow of the day.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that. Yeah. Okay, so after your first 30 days, you kind of get into the, maybe the next month. It looked like from your blog post, you were really kind of recommending getting to know your budget and getting to know your customers. Why do you think understanding your budget is just as important as understanding your customers?
Yeah, with understanding your customers, there's things that you'll learn over the process that you need to do. Maybe there's touch point or resources you need or tools you need to help out your customers. That all takes budget, right? So it's important to make sure that they're having the best experience, and that your renewal, of course, is going to be coming up. So you want to make sure that they'll upgrade, that they'll renew, and this is where your budget's going to come into play. For example, we had prime target clients that maybe were a possibility for upgrade, and I would go fly out and meet with them, or one of the team members would. That's where a budget has to come in as well. Or maybe we would take them out to dinner or have a co-op event. So budget's going to be very important, and it kind of goes side by side with making sure your customers are happy and successful.
Okay, cool. So you're in month 3 and you need to roll out your new action plan to your team. What have you found that works? And what I guess and the reverse of that would be, is there anything that the listeners should definitely avoid?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I like to do a lunch roundtable. I think food kind of makes people happy.
Oh, yeah.
I want to present that plan, solicit feedback because I want it to be interactive. I want people to feel that they're a part of the process. I always talk about what was done prior and how what we're rolling out now is going to improve that. So what actions we're taking, very detailed, because people would like to see the details and the thought process behind it. I like to bring in topics that I know people are excited about. I've talked to them. I brought them out to their dinner or their coffee. I know what's important to them. So those topics I like to bring up first to get them in the right mindset. And I always avoid, you talked about what you should avoid. Well, I like to keep away from putting negative on the previous ways that things were done, the previous processes. I don't want to bring up anybody's name, anything like that. Try to put a positive spin on everything, and this is something that we're doing to improve processes rather than bring up that this was done the wrong way. Or
that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so now we've done the 30-day point, we've done the 60-day point, and now we're at month 3. So what should you really be focused on at your 3-month mark as a new leader?
Yeah, you're going to want to do your due diligence there and really understand the current process, what's going on, and then you'll want to optimize it. If it's a new company or a new team, you probably have clients. Even if it's a new company, there's probably several clients. So you'll still want to understand the process, even the support process, because that's part of the whole ecosystem and the sales process, and start working on optimizing that.
How do you like to optimize that?
How do I like to optimize that? I like to see where things look at the onboarding, take that apart from everything. Onboarding sometimes can take a very long time. And when you look at a SaaS product, usually it's like a 12-month term. It could be a quarter term. And so when your customers go in and they see how much time onboarding is taking, sometimes at the renewal phase, they say, I didn't get started, till a month later, can we get a month free? So maybe that's somewhere you optimize. You look at the onboarding process and that's taking 3 weeks. So maybe you can condense that down to 2 weeks. Or maybe the system of a customer getting help and them going through support or going to you, maybe that's a process that can be optimized. So there's a lot of things that you can look at and see how you can make it better and also more efficient.
Okay. So then once you have put your processes together, how do you like to roll that out to the team? Do you use automation for that or playbooks? What's your approach?
Yeah, I like to do a combination of things. So definitely playbooks. I think playbooks are like a living document.
Yeah.
You're always changing, always improving them, but you have to have a basis and you want everybody following the same model, so they have consistency, right?
Right, yeah.
Consistency is super important, especially if a CSM leaves or trades departments tools. For sure, you need to be logging things. You need to, I definitely am a big fan of customer success solutions, because they're made for customer success teams. And if somebody needs to step in, you're on vacation, or somebody needs to just get a glimpse, like me as a VP, I need to get a glimpse at what's going on with the clients. I can easily look into the solution and see what's going on. It's a lot more efficient that way.
Yeah, I think the other thing too, in combination of both the playbook and the automation, is that one of the nice things about having everybody be consistent on the team is then you can measure whether, through your automation, whether the plays are actually working or not in your playbook. But if everybody's doing something different, it's really hard to tell. Part you mentioned in your blog post, part of the first 6 months really involves optimizing roles and people. And I know it's not something everybody really likes to talk about, but how do you tackle having someone in a role who isn't maybe a great fit?
Yeah, and I've had to do this before, and it is quite uncomfortable, but very necessary. And most likely this is going to come out when you're talking to the customers and talking with other team members and doing your due diligence, of course. When you have somebody that's not the right fit, it might be a case of the vertical, it might be a case of the customer, it might be a case of their role within the CS team. If you have a CS team that's built with an onboarding team and a renewals team, and then your main point of contact, which is your relationship type person, sometimes it can mean changing that person to another role. I have change people from maybe the relationship to onboarding. They fit better there.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're just not the right fit. And when they're not the right fit, I think the person knows it, and I think having an open conversation is really, really the best. But sometimes you can, like I said, move them within a different role within the CSM team. That's a great fit. That's actually why I like building teams within a CSM team.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's nice because sometimes different skill sets are needed on the team, but maybe not in the role that person's in. And it's really nice when you can keep people that have all the experience with your product and your company and put them to use in an area where they can really shine.
Definitely.
Okay, so after 6 months, you're going to need to start showing some positive improvements to the executive team and the board. So that's, assuming that you're kind of the senior leader in customer success. What's your favorite way to present that kind of information, and how do you make sure you're demonstrating the value of customer success to the organization as a whole?
Yeah, exactly. Well, execs speak numbers.
Yeah,
so
that is true.
I think it's super important to pull out metrics. I always like to pull out metrics at the top because then you can put the qualitative under it, but they like to first look at those metrics. Sometimes that's the only thing they look at, right? So at least making sure that you have them in there. And I think if you collect the metrics when you're starting the process and then do a comparison later on when you're, halfway through or when you're at a point where you're not finished, because you're never finished, but at a point where you feel everything's pretty solid, having that comparison is, really valuable for them. So things like efficiency of the team. You can do efficiency of the team. Efficiency could be onboarding, the onboarding process. We talked about this earlier. That could be more efficient. That's definitely something that you can put a number on, put time on. Ask the customers how, to rate how happy they are with the process of onboarding in the beginning and ask them this later at the end. You can look at the renewal ratings. Of course, you have to be careful with the renewal ratings because it could be a customer doesn't have a budget anymore, or your main person left. So that one you have to put a little bit of qualitative energy in there as well. You want to make sure you're not shooting yourself in the foot. And the revenue as well, if that's in their control. The NPS is really hot right now. Everybody uses NPS, and execs love to see that NPS number. It can be on the product and also on the CSMs as well. So that's things I like to do. But again, I like to pull qualitative in there as well, because a metric is just a number. Sometimes when you pull the qualitative in, it actually describes what that number means, where sometimes it's just a flat number that execs need a little bit more substance on.
Right. Do you find that when you are showing numbers to the exec team that you need to add a lot of that qualitative in right now, because they maybe don't have a grasp of the CS metrics in the same way they do other teams in the organization, like the sales team, because sales teams have been around in their current form for a really long time. So everyone just sort of knows what new sales numbers are. I find that. I have
to do it a lot. When you're even talking about renewal numbers or the renewal percentage, you have to even pull that out, and this percentage of people did not renew because they were the wrong target, or the CSM maybe got rated low, but they got rated low because the customer wasn't happy with the product, so they therefore rated the CSM low, but it really wasn't. They weren't doing their job. So sometimes a lot of times you do have to add substance to that, because there is a story behind each number.
Right. So as we're wrapping up the podcast today, I want to make sure that the audience has some takeaways, the things that they can really go and implement right away. So let's say somebody's listening to this podcast and they're starting a new team, but they only have time to do one or two of the things that you just mentioned, because we talked about a lot. What would be the most important thing for them to focus on, and why?
Yeah, I talked about this earlier, is learning the product and learning it well. I think the product is core. When you know the product and you can help your customers, therefore you become a trusted advisor, which is a big role of the CSM, right? Being that trusted advisor. You also take out a step in the fact that sometimes you may have to say, I need to go ask another person what the answer is. If you can answer it right away, that improves the efficiency, helps with renewals as well. And then you're the person that's going to help them to upgrade, whether or not you're the one actually doing the upgrade. You're the one that's talking to them. You know where they need to upgrade. If you know that product well, you know what's going to be useful to them, and that resonates well with the clients.
Okay. And then last question, what do you see as the biggest trend in customer success right now, and why?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of things going on right now. I read all the blogs.
Yeah.
I see a lot of trends in where at one time there was one person, and I talked about this earlier as well, there was one person handling the CSM role, and they were almost like, multitasking to the extreme, right?
Yeah.
But now I see a lot more trends where teams are being broken out into specialists. So that onboard specialist, that relationship specialist, that renewal specialist, where there's experts within the team that focus on that one area, because you can see a lot of issues with too much crossover where, here, I'm going to do your onboarding. Wait, now I'm going to be your relationship.
Right.
Wait, now I'm going to go to the renewal. And it actually conflicts sometimes when you have a lot of customers coming in the door and rolling in the door.
Yeah.
It takes away from the efficiency. So I see a lot more of that going on where teams are being more experts within that expert CSM team.
Yeah, we find that a lot at the Success League too, where especially when we're working with earlier stage startup companies where they've maybe had one CSM or two CSMs and they do everything. And they are hitting that point where in order to scale, they need to figure out how to split those roles apart. And so we get a lot of questions about that right now. Like how and when do we break apart these roles into sub roles that sort of make sense underneath the customer success umbrella? And I think a lot of companies are trying to figure that out. So that really resonates with me.
And what those roles mean and how you describe those roles and where one ends
exactly.
and where one starts.
Yeah. There's a lot of defining swim lanes that goes on between those roles. But I think you're right. Customers get confused if you're trying to do everything for them. And then they start to kind of question, your level of knowledge, because how can you be good at everything? Exactly. And there are unicorns out there that can be good at everything, but they're sort of few and far between. So, yeah. So, Kim, thanks so much for joining us today and for your insights.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
For any of our listeners who are interested in reading Kim's blog post about starting up a customer success group, you can visit the Strike Deck blog page and look for 10 steps to a winning CS team, or you can just click the link on the podcast page. I also want to thank our sponsors, Strike Deck and the Success League. To learn more about Strike Deck, you can visit strikedeck.com, and you can follow Strike Deck on LinkedIn or at Strike Deck on Twitter. And to find out more about the Success League, please visit our website, thesuccessleague.io, and follow the Success League on LinkedIn or at TSL Customers on